In this video, we are going to look at how we can take Standard 12A from the Alabama Course of Study of Mathematics 2019 for Grade 5 through the concrete, representational, and abstract phase. First, I would like for you to get 9 objects of the same color in front of you. It does not have to be bears, it can be colored tiles. You just need something to be able to physically manipulate. Press pause, and then when you are ready to continue, press play. So one day there were 9 little bears that showed up at the playground, and they were all wearing the same colored shirt. Several of the bears did not like that, and they wanted to go back home and change. To be exact, 1/3 of these bears wanted to go home and change. So when we're looking at this, we are actually performing the operation of multiplication because we're finding a part of the 9. So first, we need to figure out what would 1/3 of this be, and we could do this by separating our bears into 3 equal groups. Okay, so as we see, there are 3 groups, and 3 bears are in each of those groups. I know that one of these groups is going to go home and change. So now I see that 3 bears went home to change into yellow shirts. So 1/3 multiplied by 9 is equal to 3. Now I would like for you to try this on your own with 10 bears. So take out 10 objects, and I want you to think, if we had 10 bears and 2/5 of these bears went home to change, how many bears are going to come back in a different colored shirt? Press pause, and when you're ready to check, press play. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to take our 10 bears and to put them into 5 equal groups. So as we're doing that, we see that there will be 2 bears in each group. So we're trying to find 2/5 of 10. So now I'm going to circle 2 of my groups. So we know that these bears are going to go home and change shirts. So now we can see that 2/5 of 10 is the same as 4. When moving from one stage to the next, it's important to make clear connections. So in this case, we want to be sure to connect the concrete to the representational model that we are about to draw. In this situation, we have 9 bears. So we are going to use quick dots to represent each of the bears. This is because we're making a math model and they do not have to be detailed, so we do not need to take the time to draw individual bears. So next, we put the bears into 3 equal groups. So right here you see that there are 3 bears in each of my groups. And then we know that 1/3 of the bears went to go change shirts. And so we can simply just shade in 1/3. So through our model, we can see the same thing we saw with our bears, that 1/3 times 9 is equal to 3. Let's look at this example when we have a numerator other than 1. So in this case, we're finding 3/4 of 12. We put our objects into 4 equal groups, and now instead of only shading 1, we're going to shade 3, so we can see that the answer to this is 9. Once the connection has been made between the concrete and the model drawing, we can move on to drawing more efficient models. So instead of using dots, we're using numbers. So we see the 16 here being broken into 8 equal groups, and then we are going to select 5 of those groups. So we know that 5/8 of 16 is going to be 10. So now let's connect the abstract phase to the concrete and representational phases. Before telling the students the algorithm to solve for multiplying a fraction by a whole number, we want to give them the chance to stay in the other 2 phases so that they can actually come up with that algorithm on their own. If they spend enough time in this, they're going to be able to notice what operations have to be used to figure this out. So as we see here, the whole number is being divided equally into a certain number of groups. So we know that the operation of division is going to be involved here. As we can see, this is not the only operation involved here, as we have more steps to get to the final answer. So in each situation, we can see that the quotient of the whole number and denominator is going to be multiplied by a specific number. And that number is going to be the same as our numerator. So based on this information, we know that we can take the whole number and divide it by the denominator, and then multiply it by our numerator. Of course, I would want the kids to be able to explore this on their own, to check and make sure that this would work in each situation, because we don't want them to just take us at that word. We want them to explore and be sure that this is accurate. So we always want to tie it back to the model as well, so be sure to use the language of where you see the parts being divided and the parts being multiplied so that they can see the connection across the concrete, representational, and abstract phases as you teach a new concept. Now I would like for you to use this algorithm to calculate the product of 4/9 and 27. Press pause and then press play when you are ready to check. Okay, so first we're going to take our 27 and divide it by 9 and multiply it by 4. So we know that 27 divided by 9 is 3, and 3 times 4 is 12, so we know the product is 12. So please note that it is important that we do not rush kids through this cycle. This should not take place all in one lesson. We should sit within each phase for a certain amount of time and give them plenty of time to understand before moving on to the next. Thank you for watching this video on how we can use the concrete, representational, and abstract models to teach multiplying a fraction by a whole number.